The security feed on my laptop showed my parents shifting uneasily in the executive lobby of Kingston Industries. My mother fussed with her designer dress. My father checked his Rolex, for the 5th time in as many minutes. "Miss Kingston will be with you shortly," my assistant Charlotte told them, barely suppressing a smirk. They had no idea their daughter, the one whose trust fund they'd casually handed to her brother 6 months ago, was now the CEO of the company about to buy theirs. Charlotte's voice came through the intercom. "How long should we let them wait?" I watched the feed, remembering the day they appended my life in their luxury penthouse, or so they thought. "Give it 15 more minutes," I said. "They made me wait 25 years for my trust fund. They can wait a little longer to meet the woman taking over their company." The memory cut like glass. "We need to talk," Mom had said that day over brunch, her syrupy tone laced with warning. "It's about your trust fund." I'd looked up, heart skipping. That $2 million, left to me by my grandparents, was due on my 25th birthday, just 2 weeks away. "Your brother needs it more," she said, eyes averted. "His new business venture requires serious capital, and you're doing fine with your little startup." Little startup, the words echoed. TechFin Solutions had 50 employees. We were disrupting financial technology. "Playing with computers isn't a real business," Dad chimed in. "Thomas is investing in real estate, something tangible." Thomas, the golden boy who'd never held a job, who'd burned through every cent they gave him on failed ventures. "That fund was left to me," I said, specifically. "We're your parents," Mom replied smoothly. "We know what's best. The transfer's already done." I sat frozen as they explained how they'd legally circumvented my grandparents' wishes, deciding Thomas deserved my inheritance more than I did. "You don't need it," Dad added. "You live modestly." Modest, because I poured everything into TechFin, because I believed in building something real. They never saw the quarterly reports, never knew major investors were knocking. While they stole my future, I was quietly building an empire. Last week, the acquisition offer for their company landed on my desk. Anderson Financial, the firm they'd spent 3 decades building, was sinking. Their outdated methods couldn't compete with fintech. Not with solutions like the ones TechFin pioneered. But they didn't know TechFin was mine, or that Kingston Industries, the entity buying them out, was my holding company. "Your brother's real estate project tanked, by the way," Charlotte said, pulling me back. "The $2 million? Gone." "Of course it is. Thomas probably burned through it in months." "How are the numbers?" "Anderson stock is down 12% since the sale announcement. Clients are bailing for digital platforms." Her smile was practically audible. "Platforms like TechFin's." I turned back to the security feed. My parents were now standing, examining the sleek modern art that adorned the lobby, pieces I had chosen myself. Not that they'd ever know. "Their net worth has dropped 60% in the past year," Charlotte said through the intercom. "They're practically begging for this buyout." They needed this deal more than they knew. Kingston Industries' offer was their last shot at salvaging anything from Anderson Financial, the same company they once used to justify stealing my inheritance. "Miss Kingston is a visionary," I'd heard my father boast to his golf buddies just last week. "She's revolutionizing the industry. Anderson would be honored to join her organization." If only he knew. My phone buzzed. A text from Thomas. "Jesus, heard you're still at that tech company. Need any help? I'm between ventures." I deleted it without responding. The same brother who torched my trust fund now wanted to help. The irony was almost laughable. "They're getting restless," Charlotte reported. "Your father's asked when Miss Kingston will arrive 3 times." I stood, smoothing the lapels of my tailored suit. 5 more minutes, then bring them to the conference room. In the mirror of my private bathroom, I barely recognized the woman staring back. Gone was the girl they once patronized. In her place stood the CEO who now owned their future. "Conference room is ready," Charlotte said. "Purchase agreements on the table, legal on standby?" "No need, this won't take long." I gathered the documents: Anderson's financial decline, records of mismanagement, and most importantly, proof of Kingston Industries' true ownership. They took $2 million from me thinking it would ruin my future. They had no idea I'd built something worth hundreds of times more. "Send them in." On the feed, I watched Charlotte cross the lobby. "Miss Kingston will see you now." My parents straightened. My mother adjusted her pearls. My father tugged his suit jacket into place, playing the role of confident executives. "Thank you for waiting," Charlotte said. "Miss Kingston appreciates your patience." If only they knew they were about to meet the daughter they thought they'd controlled, the one now holding the pen to their fate. I took my seat at the head of the table, arranging the documents with care. Everything had to be perfect for this moment. A knock on the door. Mr. and Mrs. Anderson to see you, Miss Kingston. I smiled, thinking of my grandparents. I hoped they'd be proud, not of the wealth, but of what I'd built with grit, not handouts. Send them in. They entered with forced poise. Mom's heels echoed against the marble. Dad's cufflinks caught the light like flashbulbs. I kept my back to them, gazing out at the skyline. Miss Kingston, my father began, voice smooth, rehearsed. We can't thank you enough for. I turned slowly. Their expressions cracked. Shock, confusion, recognition. Sarah, my mother gasped. Actually, I said, calm and precise, it's Miss Kingston now, please, have a seat. They stood frozen. Sarah, what is this? Dad demanded. Where's Miss Kingston? You're looking at her. I gestured to the chairs. Sit down, we have business to discuss. They obeyed, ashen and silent. For a moment, they looked like they'd seen a ghost. In a way, they had, the ghost of the daughter they'd underestimated. This can't be, Mom whispered. You run that little tech company. TechFin Solutions, I said. Yes, along with Kingston Industries and 6 other firms. Would you like to see the numbers? I pressed a button, the wall screen lit up. TechFin valuation, $850 million. Kingston Industries, $3. 2 billion. Total portfolio, $5. 1 billion. My father's face drained of color. But, you never said. You never asked. I opened the folder. Too busy wiring my trust fund to Thomas for his concrete investments. How'd that work out? My mother flinched. He made mistakes. The money's gone. In 3 months, I said flatly, $2 million, gone. They had gambled away my future. Now, they were sitting across the table from the woman who held theirs in her hands. I'll correct you, I said. It wasn't our $2 million. It was mine, left to me by my grandparents. We were trying to help your brother, Dad said, too quickly. He needed to learn responsibility. I didn't let him finish. No, you enabled him and dismissed me. I laid Anderson Financial's latest performance reports across the table. Your firm is collapsing. Traditional investment models are obsolete. Digital platforms are the future. Platforms like TechFin's. They stared at the numbers in stunned silence. The Kingston Industries buyout is the only thing standing between you and bankruptcy, I continued. Your clients are abandoning you, opting for the very systems I built while you were emptying my trust fund. We didn't steal it, Mom muttered. You took what was legally mine and handed it to Thomas without my consent. If that's not theft, what is? The room fell quiet. Outside, the city moved on, unaware of the reckoning happening 50 floors above. Why didn't you tell us? Dad finally asked. About your success? I let out a soft laugh, humorless and sharp. Would you have listened? The same day you drained my inheritance, you called my company a little startup. You never asked about TechFin. You didn't want to know. Charlotte stepped in with a folder. The final purchase agreement, Miss Kingston. Thank you, I said, then turned back to my parents. Now, let's talk about Anderson Financial's future. You're really buying us out? Mom's voice trembled. Yes, but not to save you, to reinvent you. I slid the agreement across the table. Your company will be absorbed into TechFin's infrastructure. The old way of doing business ends today. Dad reached for the papers, hands unsteady. The price, this is lower than our asking. It's higher than your company is worth, I replied. Generosity, given the state of your books. He looked up. Are you trying to be generous? Are you even trying to be our daughter? Parents support their children's dreams. They don't steal from them or undermine everything they've built. Mom started crying, quietly at first, her makeup beginning to run. We were wrong, she whispered, about everything. Can't we work something out? We are, I said, tapping the papers. You can sign the deal and salvage what's left, or you can watch it all go under, your choice. And Thomas? Dad asked, what happens to him? He made his decisions, like you did, and now, you all live with the consequences. They signed slowly, their pride dissolving with each stroke of ink. The empire they'd spent 3 decades building now belonged to the daughter they once underestimated. You'll receive final payment within 30 days, I said. After that, Anderson Financial no longer exists. That's it? Mom whispered. 30 years. Gone? No, I said. There's one more thing. I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a second folder. Inside is a job offer. Entry-level positions on Techfin's client transition team. You'll help investors move into the digital age. They stared at me. You're offering us jobs? Dad said, incredulous. Under you? I'm offering you the same thing every new hire gets, opportunity. Starting salary is $60,000, modest by your standards, but it's a living. 60,000, Mom swayed slightly, but we can't maintain our lifestyle. Then you'll need to change, like the rest of the world has. I stood. You have 24 hours to decide. Charlotte will show you out. As they reached the door, Dad turned. You planned this, didn't you? All of it. No, I said. I planned to succeed. The fact that your failure made that easier, that's just karma. After they left, Charlotte returned with coffee. They looked like they'd seen a ghost. Wouldn't you? I said, smiling. Finding out your little startup daughter now owns your company? Do you think they'll take the jobs? I looked out over the skyline. They will, because they're about to learn what I did 6 months ago. That sometimes, losing everything is the only way to build something better. 3 days later, they reported to work. Mom couldn't adjust to the casual dress code. Dad bristled every time a junior associate called him by his first name. They were stunned to learn how many of their former clients now preferred Techfin's automated platform. Thomas called when he found out. Charlotte blocked his number. Last week, I gave a talk at our all-hands meeting. I spotted my parents near the back, wearing Techfin badges. They looked smaller somehow, not just humbler, but aware. The future of finance isn't in dusty offices or inherited power, I told the room. It's in bold ideas, in refusing to be underestimated. This time, they nodded. They finally understood. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't just proving them wrong, it's making them work for the future they once refused to see.